All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to the WTCF podcast. It's Charlie hanging out at the house. And this time around, I wanted to spend some time talking about tolerance breaks. So, one of the last videos that I had put up was around, I quit drinking for a while. So, at that time, I had made it 30 days. Since that time, I made it to 90 days. I had not had a drink for 90 days. And what I had set myself up to do was to go to Elmhurst, and there's a run for beer. So you run a 5K and you go and you get a beer for it. And I was really excited about that one because I wanted to normalize the fact that alcohol is going to be around me in my life. And what I don't want to go ahead and do is to be really upset and strict with myself to such a degree. It's like, no, 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 I'm not allowed to have it. Um, and that just felt like such a weird thing to me. I'm an individual who gets a lot of good work done out of spite. So when people tell me I can't do something, I usually get really, really good at it because why shouldn't I? Like, why can't I do things? Why shouldn't I be able to do things? So I'll go and I'll challenge that outright. So I wanted to go ahead and normalize, like, because I know for the rest of my life, I'm going to be around things like alcohol. And I want to be able to, enjoy a really well put together sangria, or hey, somebody's signature cocktail they spent years making, or having an ice cold beer on a really hot day. But what's different now is that I don't need 8 or 9 of them anymore. I'd have to drink to excess. I would constantly have to slam down like as many beers as I can get in my body. So again, having 4, 5, 6 beers was nothing. The other day, I went to go sit down and watch a bit of a baseball game and kind of talk to some people at the bar, and I had 2 drinks. I had one PBR, and then I had a shot of it was Wild Turkey and Werther. So again, between the two, maybe it's a little bit more, right? Because Wild Turkey is a little bit overproofed. But I had 2 drinks. I felt fantastic. Like I felt really, really good. I didn't feel drunk, but I did feel like the buzz effects of it. Where in the past, you would have had to give me that 3 or 4 times over to even get me started. So I really recognized that I didn't even want more after that, which was really, really interesting to my thought process because I can just sit there and drink for hours on end. And now I'm sitting here like I'm 2 drinks in, and I'm like, I'm good. Can I get water? And I just hung out and watched the rest of a Sox game, and it was perfectly fine. Everything was normal about it, and I wasn't mad or upset. Like my tab was $8 or something like that, which was great. I really appreciated the fact that I got to go ahead and test it out because again, they're sitting there doing Wild Turkey and Werther's. It's weird. I needed to know, and it works better than you think. It actually makes it nice and sweet and easy to go down, and I really enjoy it because I actually do like the taste of alcohol. So some people just like to drink to go ahead and get messed up. I actually enjoy the process of it. That's why I have a expired BASSET certification. I studied mixology, so I can go ahead and make really, really good and tasty drinks. So I just thought it was really cool. So that was the first thing I recognized. Like my tolerance, it came way back down. So instead of needing 10 beers, I needed 2. That's great. But in that same token, I was able to save a bunch of money. Again, going to the bar gets expensive. An average tab for me is somewhere between $50 and $75. And I was going to the bar every other day or so. I was constantly finding myself at the bar. So it's not that hard to go ahead and run up a $500 tab over the month of just going out and doing that, right? You add in a little bit of food with that, and suddenly, you tip them well because people, you go take care of people. So ended up saving a bunch of money during that time frame. So I'm happy for a couple extra dollars in my pocket. I can now use that money to facilitate better things over at the studio and kind of help that grow. So again, I had the nice financial pieces of it. It's also been really interesting that having like 2 drinks, no hangovers or anything. The most I had at any one sitting so far, I had 4 drinks, and I woke up the next day and I felt a little fuzzy, but I recognized it was a hangover. But it wasn't that bad. But not something I'm really like happy or proud about, right? Like a lot of my mornings are going to start up at 4 a.m. So if I'm hungover at 4 a.m. waking up, and this is how I was living my life for a really long time, like why am I doing that to myself? So I'm like hindering my ability to grow and do the work that I set out for because I'm too hungover in the morning. Now when I wake up, it's like there's nothing, right? I just wake up, I'm good to go. So feeling good about that. and dropping a bunch of weight as well, because again, all of that alcohol still has calories in it, and they're kind of empty calories. And sometimes I consider them double calories, because then you get a bunch of drinks in you, and then you go, I can definitely eat 5 burgers right now. And you just go and you eat way too much. Um, so I just thought it was really kind of interesting that like all these little changes were kind of happening for myself. So yeah, if you're kind of curious, like, oh, did he fall off the wagon? Is there another problem with it? It's like, no, like a lot of the times now where I would, come home and have like 4 or 5 drinks, or just polish off the rest of a bottle of bourbon or something like that, just neat. um, I don't want it. When I'm by myself at my house, I don't want to drink, which is a completely new concept to me, which is something I was so accustomed to for so long. So I'm really thankful that I gave myself that opportunity to go ahead and kind of hit reset. It's the summertime. There's great drinks that are still out there, but now I feel like I've maneuvered myself into a spot where I have a lot more recognition of what I'm doing, and I'm recognizing a lot more moderation of something like that, where it's like, well, yeah, I can go ahead and have the drink. I can try the drink. I don't need 3 or 4 or 5 of them. I was wandering around with my cousin. That's when I had my 4 drinks, right? So my cousin and I, we used to go out for dinner, and we would, um, have a really good whiskey and then do a little bit of bar hopping. This time around, I had a beer. We stopped over at Exit Strategy, which is a really cool spot over in Forest Park. They were doing on the TV. There was the Ocho. So I didn't realize that was a real thing. I didn't ESPN the Ocho, and they weren't just doing dodgeball, but they were doing like some college thing where you try to climb a slippery staircase. Ridiculously stupid. Really good time watching it, and really good beer. So again, they spend their time on that stuff. So I wanted to go ahead and take part of it. And then they have a non-alcoholic hop water, which is just basically like seltzer water with a little bit of like hops flavoring in it. So again, knowing that there's so many more non-alcoholic options out there too, that I can kind of play around with if I really wanted to, so I can still have some of that normalcy, at least to my own perspective of it. So we had a couple of drinks there. I said I just had no, I had two. I had two there. The dad style, like the cream ale that they make, awesome stuff. And then hop water the rest of the way out. And then we went down the road. I think at some other point, I cracked a PBR, which was cool. I don't mind PBR. I like PBRs. And then within another like hour or so, I had a Miller Lite, and I hated it immediately. I'm usually a big Miller Lite guy. I'm one of those guys, like, I hate Bud Light, and it's not that go woke, go broke bullshit. I think Bud Light just tastes bad. I don't enjoy the product, so I don't partake in it. So I don't really care if people like it or not. Like, whatever's whatever. But I ended up having like a Miller Lite, and just immediately was just like, I don't need this. I don't want this. And in my previous life and how I normally would go about it, I would slam that and 3 more. No question, no issues. I would just keep on going, keep on going. But as I continue to learn and move forward with this, and understand that I'm going to have these moments of temptation, and I'm going to be able to work on it, that I really need to just practice my good moderation. It's one of the things that I've learned from Stoicism. One of the things that I hold pretty dear to myself now is these 4 pillars of Stoicism, because there's of the 4, they can be infinite, right? You can infinitely get better at all of these things. I can always be more just. I can always have more patience and moderation. I can always have more courage, and I can always have more wisdom. So all of these things are really important to me. So having the courage to say, I'm good, I don't need another one. Or having the moderation to say, well, you know what, maybe I don't need to get hammered drunk all the time. Maybe I don't need to do that at all. Maybe I can just have a couple of drinks and enjoy it, and then be able to move on with my life. So even the other day when I went and enjoyed the Sox game, I had 2 drinks. I stayed to the end of the game just drinking water, just enjoying my time there. So I felt it was a really, really good thing. But what I'm keeping an eye out for, again, is if I start drinking alone. That was a big thing for me. Drinking by myself is a sign of alcoholism. I get that, and I recognize it now, being on the other side of that fence. I don't really think about it or crave it as much as I used to, which is kind of cool. But I'm always kind of worried that like some other stressor is going to come up and kind of put me back into that place, kind of like when I quit smoking, where it's just like there's that risk. It's like if you get too stressed out, you'll just use it as a coping mechanism. And 100%, I was using alcohol as a coping mechanism. There is some concerns about social pressures. So the bar that I would regularly frequent, they have some good food. So I'll go to O'Donnell's over here in Franklin Park. Uh, but now that the people all know me there, so they'll start sliding me drinks all the time. I've constantly worked with bartenders on building and developing drinks at that bar too. So now saying like, maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe I don't need to go ahead and try out every bottle to see what they all taste like on that day. Maybe I don't need that anymore. So there's going to be social pressures of the people around me that I need to keep pace. So you might recognize it hanging out with some of your other friends when they're like, "Hey, you need a beer." It's usually because somebody's done, and we're all trying to keep pace with somebody. And I know that I don't need to do that anymore, which is another really cool thing. But I might not even recognize it. Right? I might just go ahead and say, "Yeah, dude, I'll have enough." Now I know better, and just say, "I'm good. Do you have something else?" Water is usually fine. And it's weird. I hate water, and now I'm getting used to it. But I think those are the main ones. I think those are the main things that I kind of worry about if I end up developing the same problems again. But at least I have my way out of it. So I can recognize like my own health because again I'm losing healthy weight at this point. So I'm losing about a pound to two every week. So I'm down another 2 pounds this week. I'm down to under 200. I'm 198 as of this morning, as of this morning's filming, I should say. Um, I feel like I'm moderately strong. I know my actual training schedule is going to start to move around in the near future because soccer is going to start up soon. So I'm going to have that going on. And you know what? I don't actually have time to sit around and be a drunk idiot anymore. So if I'm waking up at 4 a.m., so I can go be at the studio by 5 to go train people and then take a class and be out of there by 8 so I can go ahead and get to work. Then after work, I'm either coming back to do more training to train somebody else or I'm off to soccer. There's no more time for me to spend doing that. And I constantly would spend my time doing that and then wonder why things would suffer and why things wouldn't get done. Now I have a much better sense of how all that stuff should work. And I'm hoping that, being open and honest about this one kind of helps you. So if drinking is something that you've been, mulling around thinking you're going to go ahead and try to quit, I'll help you to the best of my ability. All you got to do is just let me know. So on that one, good luck.